So it's very much about that growth mindset. It's very much about that positive experience and conversational AI to empowering our learning through our learning philosophy, getting everybody to that sweet spot of learning where they can access with confidence. And our AI tutors are designed to build that confidence, enhance self-well-being, the efficiencies that they gain by utilizing those tools at their fingertips, really.
They don't just give you the answer ever, but rather they unpack what thought processes are evident in what the student has written, link that to what thought processes are required to answer the question appropriately and correctly, and then try to elicit what the next appropriate thought processes would be for the learner, which we think is a very powerful way, well, to be approaching anything, but definitely a powerful way to be using AI. Because the AI was doing that, sort of rote, repetitive sort of stuff, giving the teacher that running start, the teacher was able to make marking more human, not less.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Unfiltered by EmpowerED, the podcast where we have unedited conversations with educators from around the globe. I'm your host, Caroline, and in our podcasts, we have conversations with passionate educators to uncover the challenges, celebrate the successes, and inspire with the real stories from the front line of education. So today we are joined by Patrick and Kim from Activate Learning. And we're thrilled to have them here today to share their innovative and insightful work around AI. Patrick and Kim, welcome to Unfiltered by EmpowerED. To get us started, could you please tell us a little bit about yourself, your current role, and your experience so far in the education sector?
Thank you. My name's Kim Blanchard. I am the Group Head of Digital Education Development and AI for Activate Learning. I've worked in further education for almost 20 years now, and very passionate about making a huge difference to our learners and empowering them with the ability to make good choices with regards to technology and have a great educational experience.
Thank you, Kim. And my name is Patrick, and my title is Group Innovation and AI Specialist. I've been in FE for 9 years now, although only on the digital side of things about 5 years. Previously, actually, I started off as an ESOL and then GCSE English teacher, but I really, really had a passion and interest in technology and education, using it to bridge those gaps. And so I've been focusing on that increasingly throughout my educational career.
Amazing. Thank you so much, both. So, Activate Learning has recently been listed as a finalist in the Best Use of AI in Learning Award by the Learning Awards. Congratulations. Could you tell us a bit about what it is that you have done to achieve this and how you've been using AI in learning at Activate Learning?
Yeah, so we have taken, I would say, a full spectrum approach towards building up an AI-empowered organization. So that does mean, effective use of off-the-shelf tools, like Copilot, but also involves a lot of building of our own AI tools and solutions to empower teaching, empower learning, empower organizational efficiencies. Tools like our AI tutors that we have built for supporting students directly, for AI feedback assistant for empowering teachers to write feedback, and Alia, which is our Activate Learning Intelligent Assistant, ALIA, Alia, which is our AI assistant that we make available to staff.
Amazing. That all sounds fantastic. So you mentioned that you've built your own tools. So how did you go about building these? Was there a specific platform that you used, and how did you integrate this?
Well, we started out looking at building tools. It was sort of a throwing things against the wall at first just to figure out what we were doing and what worked. And so we did some stuff with Google Gemini and Google Cloud and some stuff with other tools. But we wound up migrating everything towards using Microsoft Azure because we are a Microsoft first organization. And we found that by keeping everything within that Microsoft ecosystem, we could create a safe, secure, walled garden where everything talked to everything else and nothing talked to anything we didn't want it to talk to.
Yeah, that makes complete sense. And is that specifically why you chose to build your own AI tools? Because it's easier for everything then to talk to each other and you get better data and you can control it a bit more.
Yes, I think for sure we chose to do to work with an in-house provision with GDPR and the risks around the use of AI and people getting caught out. It was really important that we were able to secure our own data internally and protect our staff and students in the use of AI whilst we teach them how to use AI ethically and responsibly.
Absolutely. We know from observation that teachers are
Yeah.
going to be tempted to use AI in ways that we would not consider to be GDPR secure always, say putting in student work and trying to have AI analyze that. And we can tell them, do not do that. But we know that the temptation is potentially going to exist for some people. So the ability to build a safer way of using AI was definitely something that was in our heads.
Yeah, that makes complete sense because I know obviously a lot of institutions have now, well, desperately trying to come up with some kind of policy around AI. And often that goes towards either being a hard ban or just ignoring
Yeah.
it and
Yeah.
pretending it doesn't exist.
That's right. So we released our positioning statement early. We were one of the first to release it after AI became the new technology in education.
June of 2023.
That's right. And we have since written a policy that has gone for ratification with our board of governors about the use and misuse of AI within the organisation. We wholeheartedly endorse that AI is part of the toolkit. It's not going away. So it really is about how we educate our staff and students in the safe use, as I previously mentioned, and creating our own tools is part of that journey.
Amazing. Yeah, that sounds so great. It's so good that you got in there early. I know a lot of people really struggled to find their feet when it all blew up. So obviously, yeah, we've mentioned there are some ethical considerations around the use of AI, and it's one of the reasons why you've chosen to go down the route of building your own platform. Have you actually experienced any specific ethical challenges? And if so, how did you overcome these?
I don't think we've really experienced any ethical issues ourselves, but the challenges are of always is how do we safeguard from the sharing of too much information with regards to when we're asking for data analysis and those sorts of things. So Patrick can really talk about the guardrails that we've implemented. We have very much a growth mindset around our learning philosophy and the way that we want to motivate our staff, educate our staff and help them have that growth mindset in place. But those guardrails are exceptionally important, and we can't mitigate necessarily. We can mitigate for the risks that the generalized tools, the BYO as you call it, AI tools offer, and we've done that internally. So Patrick, if you would explain.
Yes, of course. So in terms of, the ethical sides of things, there is, we have to consider both how we are handling the data and how we are handling, all of the user information that goes into it. And we also need to be considering the usage of the tools, what the tools do, what sorts of behaviors those tools are likely to create and inspire by the usage of them. And in both cases, there's just been a lot of conversation on the front end with people. So, a lot of conversation with our IT engineers and with the data protection officers trying to say, so this is the perceived flow, this is what's going to happen, how can we do this and be safe while doing it? And at the same time, when it comes to behaviors, that was a lot of small group piloting and discussion with key stakeholders and things like, case in point, our AI tutors, one of our AI tutors offers students support with writing English, writing essays. And one behavior that we decided to do very on while safeguarding against, hallucination or giving something a poor response was to link what the AI tutor did and have the AI tutor work out of a rubric, out of the actual mark scheme. And so it gave a response rooted in that mark scheme, which to me felt like a very safe technical way of safeguarding against a technical misbehavior. But what we found as soon as we put it in teachers' hands, and this is obvious in retrospect, was the teachers said, well, that's massively unethical. That undermines the human teacher because you have an AI giving a grade to a student. And so now me with my technical perspective on the problem, I didn't see that coming. But
Yeah.
the teachers obviously saw that instantly. And so holding those conversations was a great way of safeguarding against that sort of ethical lapse.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be one of the things that I was going to ask is whether you'd had any pushback from teachers, because I know that a lot of them do have concerns over whether AI will eventually replace them. So yeah, it's really good that you'd already thought of that and taken steps to mitigate for it.
I think that's the point really, that we want the member of staff to be the human in the room. They need to provide and ratify feedback. They need to provide the mark. The use of the tool really, and the intention for the tool is for the efficiencies that they can gain to be the human in the room.
Absolutely. Yeah, and in terms of that, so how do you balance the use of an AI tutor, so the need for flexibility that provides versus the need for human social interaction? So obviously we've spoken a bit about how the teachers are still involved, but do you have to think more carefully about how you facilitate collaboration between the students, and how do you go about doing that?
When you mention about, not, maintaining a balance and not replacing that social interaction of things, I think that's absolutely the right question to be asking. And that was first and foremost in our thoughts in terms of how we would be building and deploying it. So first of all, when it comes to the AI tutors, the human teacher is in complete control of where they exist within the student's learning journey, when the students have access to them. They're not something that the student could ever be going to instead of the teacher. It is something that the teacher is deploying to enhance and support the way that they're doing things. So, for instance, the way that we might see these being used is for students to be able to have a resource to support them in working independently and learning independently when they don't have access to a teacher, like in the evenings or between classes, or something that the teacher can choose to enable and give them mobile access to. If they've got a busy classroom, there's 30 students, they can only sit with one of them at a time. So you give them something that they can use so that they can work independently until they can get that human interaction, not instead of that human interaction.
Yeah, absolutely. So that is so important. In terms of then, yeah, so like I say, with the students themselves, do you have them so they would still be doing like activities as part of their classes, and then they're just using AI as like when they're by themselves doing their own private study? Because I know obviously they're online courses, so I'm not 100% sure. When we say online, are they completely asynchronous, or do the students have some synchronous activities?
We do online courses which are completely remote, and we have in the class face-to-face delivery, but the tools are available to students regardless of the mode of delivery. So when we talk about the online course experience, all students have access to the tools through our learning management system, Activate Learning Online. They're embedded into the assignments. So when the student responds to the assignments, they can check for their feedback to see if they're on track with their language, grammar, and all of those things. For their English and for the math, they can use that to coach them through a quiz question And that's quite an individualized way of sort of having really AI as their teaching coach, to be fair.
Yes, so with these
Yeah.
AI tools, we did
Mhm.
pilot them at first with our online only students. They were the first to gain access to it. And, that was in large part sort of because of that social element that you mentioned, because these students are, well, unfortunately, what online is, the teacher does not really have the opportunity to engage in sort of informal, light, over-the-shoulder type of communication, because they do have online lessons, with an online conferencing suite, big blue button, but those are rather visible public affairs with 30 people on camera. And so, you're not likely to want to ask a question that might make you feel exposed or vulnerable or show off your ignorance or anything if you are anything but the most outgoing and extrovert type of person.
Mm.
And so it was giving those students a non-judgmental 24/7 instant form of immediate support was where we saw as the clearest opportunity for deploying this AI tutor idea. And so that is where we piloted it. And we got very positive feedback on that. And since then, as Kim says, we have expanded that to all of our face-to-face learners having access as well.
Yes, no, I was just going to add to that, because we find that obviously we have such a broad demographic of learners. We have our 14 to 16, 16 to 19, and our adult learners, both online and face to face. As they're going through their learning journey, there's lots of barriers that they might personally experience. So the AI coaches, tutors that we have offer a leveling of the playing field, so to speak, because it's very much
That's
an
so true.
individualized, personalized experience. They are talking they initiate the tutors when they are at their point of struggle, and then the tutors will coach them through to get to the right outcome without giving them the answers. So it's very much about that growth mindset. It's very much about that positive experience, and conversational AI. And then subliminally, they're learning how to critically think about, okay, so I've got this far, how do I go to the next step of problem solving? And AI takes them on that journey. So it's very much about, we're very hooked into the providing equity and parity for all of our learners. And we can use AI to leverage that, because it's rooted back, as Patrick said earlier, to empowering our learning through our learning philosophy. Getting everybody to that sweet spot of learning where they can access with confidence. And our AI tutors are designed to build that confidence.
Yeah, absolutely. Something that you said there really resonated with me about that. Not when you're online and it's a group of 30 other students and not feeling confident enough to speak up. And it can often lead to people assuming that you're not engaged when actually you are engaged. You're just too scared to speak up. So being able to use something that can build up your confidence so you're still learning, or it might even make you more confident to speak up as well. So we've spoken about the fact that obviously you piloted it with your online courses. So obviously one of the huge challenges around online learning is a feeling of isolation, not having those social connections that we spoke about earlier. So have you found that your use of AI tutors has it had any impact on decreasing this sense of isolation? And if so, how?
So that's a really interesting question. And in our surveys, we have not specifically asked that question. Do you feel less socially isolated on that? But one thing that I did notice in those, well, first of all, the students have reported that they really enjoy using it, that 89% of them do want to continue using, did want to extend the pilot. But when asked about, what sorts of things are they using it for, and, we've had a look for some of those that have allowed us to look into the data. The thing that they most often ask it for is just to help them define words and unpack phrases, and just that really foundational bit that would help them follow along with the material and follow along with the question and with the lesson. And so while we haven't asked them, does this make you feel more connected? We can see in terms of what they're using it for, that they're using it to knock down those early barriers that might prevent them from feeling connected to what's going on in the lesson.
Amazing. Yeah, no, that sounds great. And yeah, obviously, possibly a question for the future.
It's a good question. I will be sure to ask that next round of surveys.
So kind of a broader question, but you've sort of alluded to this slightly, but why specifically did you choose to use AI for this? What sparked that interest and how it could be used in learning, and what motivated you to incorporate it as a tutor?
So first of all, with my background, I did my bachelor's and my master's in linguistics with a focus on computational. And although most of what I have learned, because this was a little bit ago, was completely thrown out the window in terms of relevance as soon as the transformer model and GPTs came out, I still had a very strong pre-existing interest in this. And so as soon as this came out, ChatGPT launched on like 30th of November. I ran our first internal training on this on the 2nd of December. I was really, really excited about all the prospects of this. And so immediately as this came out, I started assessing, what is this good at? What is it maybe not so good at? How could we start using it? And looking for questions, those ongoing struggles that our faculty had, and trying to find opportunities where this could align really well. And all the needs of the online faculty, which stem from the fact that, the teacher just is not present in that same way, seemed like the clearest proof of concept, where we could see a real need and see a very clear pathway forward to how we could deploy something for them.
And that's right. To support that, with our online faculty, we have lots of non-traditional learners. So people are learning when they finish a shift late at night and things like that. So part of the question to answer was how do we get them the support at a time that when they can access it, without having to employ somebody to do 24 hours, 24/7 support. It's just absolutely incredible. And I think from the digital education leadership point of view, we had it very clear in our intent. So we've created a sub-brand of Activate AI. So the tutors, feedback assistants, and our intelligent assistant Alia is very much part of that mission and intent to support the organization and to build efficiencies. We know that AI is not going anywhere in education. Everybody's very, very fearful about plagiarism and cheating. Cheating's been around for as long as I can remember. It could be using Wikipedia or getting anything, getting an AI to write it, is no different to that, really. So how do we educate? How do we bring our staff on our journey, and empower them, and subsequently empower our learners to use AI? AI is in business now. It's been there since it's been in education. So we have that responsibility to make sure our learners are equipped with the right knowledge so that they can be effective in whatever life brings them, whether they're going on to further education, higher education, or whether they're going into employability.
That is right. And with a focus on learners and appropriate learner use of it, that is one of the biggest reasons why we wanted to produce AI tutors. We wanted to be modeling an appropriate way to be using AI. So the way that all of our AI tutors work is that they are all focused on a growth mindset. They are all focused on metacognitive coaching. So they don't just give you the answer ever, but rather they unpack what thought processes are evident in what the student has written, link that to what thought processes are required to answer the question appropriately and correctly, and then try to elicit what the next appropriate thought processes
Yes.
would be for the learner, which we think is a very powerful way, well, to be approaching anything, but definitely a powerful way to be using AI. And so, we know that AI is out there. As soon as this came out, we thought, oh, the students are going to be using this. So our thought is, how should they be using this? And how can we
Yeah.
model that usage? And the AI tutors were one way that we decided to do that.
Absolutely. I think that's so fantastic and such a good point, because I know personally now when I'm doing course designing, I often use AI in some way just to help me map it or to give me a title for it. So it's about using it in that appropriate, sensible way where it's not doing the work for you, but it's helping you sort through it and get to the end product.
It becomes part of your creative process, right? Doesn't it?
Yeah.
And in the same way for learners, it removes the blank page. But with the talking through the use of AI, they have to be the editor. They have to share their knowledge, not AI's.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, you've built your own tools for around AI, but do you allow for use of other AI tools, or do you encourage it? And how are you supporting students use them if you are?
Yes, well, we've got an approved apps list. JISC have launched an approved apps list, and you use with guidance and caution. So you looking at the tools that we have available to us, we will give some fundamental guidance around it. If they're the free ChatGPTs or Google Gemini or the other large language models in generative AI, we would really encourage critical thinking around the types of data that you're sharing, because we don't want our data to become or any confidential data to become trained into other people's responses. It's really important. So we don't block it, but we guide around it and give advice.
Yeah, that all sounds fantastic. So we've spoken about a little bit about obviously student feedback and them finding it really useful. What's the feedback been like from staff? How are they finding it? How is it helping them?
Absolutely. So if we are focusing on, the AI tutors sides of things, then feedback on that one has been very positive, but also very self-selected in terms of who has been using them in the early stages of these. So we do get our early adopters who jump all over these, find every way that it can enhance their learning, and then, go off and post on Viva Engage and LinkedIn about all the amazing things they're doing. And, we absolutely applaud that and we love that. And of course, there are people as well who are a little more cautious, a little more wait and see, and let's see where this is going. And there are also people who, feel free to voice their concerns about these as well. And we take those on board as well and really appreciate that sort of feedback that we get as well. So in terms of those, we do get the whole gamut of responses that we receive. Now, we do also produce tools specifically for staff use as well, such as the AI feedback assistant, which will be scanning through an assignment brief, referencing the specification, then scanning through the student's work, and offering support with marking and feedback. And that has received overwhelmingly positive response. In the first week that we launched, it was used over 2,000 times. And usage has not slowed down on it. Very, very positive response on that. We also have the tool Alia, our, intelligent assistant, sort of like a ChatGPT +++ in terms of how we have integrated it to all of our knowledge sources and other tools, and that as well. Very strongly used, and I would say that there is no negative contingent of users that we have experienced with those. It's been positive across the board, fortunately.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds
Absolutely.
Fantastic. I mean, I know personally when I mark work done by academics, not by students very often. But when I'm doing that marking, you can sometimes sit there and stare at it for ages, and it's really hard to get going. So having a tool that could actually help you out with that sounds fantastic. I think it saves so much time.
Well,
Absolutely.
I
In
think,
our pilot, it was a 65% time savings on that. Sorry, Kim. I was just so excited
oh,
about
no,
that
no,
figure.
no,
Just
I
jump
was,
right at it.
I'm really glad that you said that. I was going to say that, but I'm really pleased that you dropped that in there because it's a significant number. You know, our staff have it's been so positively well received. It's available to them. They can use that when they're marking in the evening. A close friend of mine who is a GCSE teacher for Activate Learning reflected on how quickly she was able to get a bath in the evening because she was able to use the tool, put to bed the marking and the feedback. She edited the responses as she felt appropriate for the learner, and it was brilliant. So she said instead of getting a bath at at past 10 in the evening, she was able to get a bath earlier in the evening. And that's significant, right? You know, you're not giving up your whole evening to marking and feedback when you've already had a busy day. So that's the power of the tools that our tools can elicit to enhance self-well-being, the efficiencies that they gain by utilizing those tools at their fingertips, really.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, anything that can get me earlier into my evening is always a great thing. But also thinking about it in terms of, I do a lot of training for academics, and when we run training sessions, we have to be really careful about when we schedule them for, because if we schedule them during marking periods, they'll just say they don't have time to attend them because they're busy marking. And it's a totally valid point. They have loads of marking to do. So I think, yeah, having a tool that can cut down the time you're spending is so great, not only for well-being, but also it frees up time to do other stuff.
Absolutely.
That's right. And it also frees up time to write better marking and better feedback for your learners as well. You know, it's the staff well-being is a huge part of it, but also in our pilot groups, the learners, we did ask them as well. They reported that they were getting better and more personalized feedback as well, because it's not like the teacher was taking all of that time and just having a bath with it, although it's wonderful that they were, don't get me wrong. They were also able to take a lot of their time and drill deeper into, what does this
Absolutely.
specific student need, linking it to what they had done last time. And so because the AI was doing that, sort of rote, repetitive sort of stuff, giving the teacher that running start, the teacher was able to make marking more human, not less.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That's amazing. So, looking towards the future, how do you see the role of AI tutors or AI in general evolving? You've chosen to obviously do this with English and maths to begin with. Will you be expanding to other subjects?
Oh, we certainly have expanded to other subjects. So our AI feedback tutors, although I know we are sort of telling a story through time here, but we have recently opened it to work in all courses, based as long as they've got an assignment brief up on there, and as long as we've got their specification within our knowledge base, the AI feedback assistant does work, and seeing particularly widespread usage within our land-based faculty at the moment, but just throughout the organization, definitely. And in terms of where we see it going in future, we're looking at integrating not just with, more specifications, more, mark schemes like that, but with the wider organizational pieces, like our digital competencies development. And Kim, I'm sure if that's something that you want to bring in and talk about, because I know that's something that you've been leading on.
Absolutely. So we've defined an initial assessment as everybody comes into the organization, both staff and students. We capture their baseline digital competency, and from that we want to see growth and for our staff and for our students. So we have learning pathways that come off the back of that. But our staff can really support our learners by contextualizing digital activities that are based on our framework that we have for our Pixies, which is I have to jump in, Patrick, if I miss one. Creating, communicating, collaborating, connecting, curating, and critical thinking. And they're leveled, well, they're and they're leveled at emerging, developing, practicing, and innovating. And so as we have built sort of over 1,500 digital activities contextualized to all of the subjects that we deliver, based on the employability skills that our learners are going to need, we want to build a toolkit for our staff to make sure that they have a digitally ambitious curriculum that leverages digital activities that build skills, and then we capture that. And we capture the growth from the baseline initial assessment through to when they leave us, they'll have a digital passport that will empower them and support them on their digital journey going forward. So we're really passionate. AI is part of the toolkit, but whilst AI is here, we don't want to forget about all the other fundamental skills that we have. I see sometimes that digital skills can be a little bit of a snakes and ladders. So AI is the ladder. It will take you all the way to the top. But if you get to the top of that, the board, and then you hit something around Excel that you can't, that's the slippery snake that you slide down. And you have to learn those skills, at the same time as learning how to use AI. So we're very passionate about ensuring that we have a digitally ambitious curriculum that teaches the skills for employability and for life ahead. And in that, AI is very much woven.
That's right. And to support that with our AI tools like Alia, our intelligent assistant. Yeah. My current project is Alia, safely reading who the user is, because it's all within the Office 365 environment, and then using that to pull cohort reports of the, tested digital skills of their learners, so that without the teacher needing to specifically reference our Power BI reports, Alia can then help produce those activities and make those activities appropriately contextualized to where the learners actually are. And yes, that is our sort of first intended steps forward into this world of integrating our AI pieces and our data pieces, which has there's enormous numbers of ways that we can continue to develop, in terms of providing better, more personalized, more contextualized support to learners and to staff.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. I mean, I think I need to have a separate conversation with you about how you're assessing your staff and students' digital capabilities. That's something we've been trying to work out how to do for ages. So I'd be particularly interested in learning more about that. But yeah, a really good point around, AI is just one tool. There are so many other digital skills that students and staff need to have, not just AI. So, to finish us off today, what advice would you give to other institutions wanting to do the same, and what factors should they consider for a successful implementation?
So I think from a strategic point of view, they need to know the why. Why are they doing? What is their intent, and how do they think that they're going to achieve that? So they will have some questions, just in the same way that we had. That they need to answer for their mission and vision, organisationally, where do they want to be? We've fundamentally, through our strategic intent, and we're just rewriting our next strategy until 2030, technology and AI is very much part of that vision. So that you need to have that vision, and then once you understand where you want to be and why, then you can define the what. What are you going to do around to achieve that? We're quite happy to take conversations with colleagues in the sector if they want to talk to us, and to understand our journey with that regard. We're more than happy to do that, and then see if we can give them some guidance on how they could approach the type of toolkits and things that we've got.
Amazing. Yeah, thank you. One of my questions was going to be to wrap up, would you be happy for us to share your details along with this podcast so that our listeners can reach out if they want to learn more?
Absolutely. We, rather than personally, we have a shared mailbox that many people within the team can pick up. So we'll share that with you to share with colleagues that reach out to you.
Amazing. Thank you so much. And that brings us to the end of today's episode of Unfiltered with EmpowerED. A huge thank you to Patrick and Kim for joining us and sharing such valuable insights into how AI can be used to revolutionize the way adults engage with education and provide flexibility with regards to learning. Thank you also to our listeners for tuning in. We hope this conversation inspires you to think about how AI is being used and developed at your own institutions. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel to stay updated with all of our latest episodes. And until next time, stay curious and empowered.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.